Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen. Today we're going to do a recipe from one of our viewers. I love it when I get mail. When someone takes the time to pull out pen and paper and an envelope and a stamp and drop something in the mail to me. I love that. And we get quite a bit of mail. We get a lot of cookbooks for the Old Cookbook Show. We get stuff every week. And I absolutely love it when people send me this. So today we're going to do a recipe that was sent in a letter that I got recently. And this was sent by Katie in St. Cloud, Minnesota. And I will read the letter first and then we'll go into the recipe. The letter says, "Dear Glenn, hello, how are you? I'm fine. I'm sending you a recipe from my great-grandma's pepper nuts. I don't have a lot of information on them, but my mom said that when she was young, she'd sit at great-grandma's table and eat them while listening to the grown-ups talk. Great-grandma is my grandpa's mom. I hope you find them interesting if you decide to make them. Sincerely, Katie." So Katie, she sent us her great-grandma's pepper nuts recipe. I've never had pepper nuts. I've heard of pepper nuts, but I don't know that I've ever actually seen one, and I know for a fact that I have never made them. So the recipe is pretty straightforward, and we're going to get right into it. It starts out like pretty much every other cookie recipe. You take some butter or fat, in this case the fat is butter, and you cream that together with the sugar. So I'm first going to put the butter in to the mixer and get that softened up before I add the sugar. Okay, while that's softening, what I have here is some flour. Now, the recipe calls for 4 or 5 cups of flour. So I've got 4 cups in this main bowl, and to that I'm going to add baking soda, salt, and of course pepper. And we'll just mix that in. And imprecise measurements are very common the farther back you go in a lot of recipes. And that's because the precision wasn't in the measuring instrument, it was in the cook. The cook knew what the texture was supposed to be like, what it was supposed to feel like, what it was supposed to look like or sound like. They knew. They didn't rely on a measuring cup or a scale to get it right. They just had the knowledge to make it right. So the sugar is now in there being creamed together with the butter. I need whipping cream. So I'll get the whipping cream out and we'll get that measured. There you go, about a cup. Now it's probably time to put the egg in, so crack that in. I'll turn this down a little bit so I don't get egg everywhere. And we'll turn that up. That's looking pretty good. Now, I also need a cup of dark syrup. And Katie says 1 cup of Caro brown syrup, dark corn syrup. So Caro is a brand that we can now find in the grocery stores here in Canada, but it wasn't a brand that we often found here in the past. And so for dark corn syrup, I would choose usually this Beehive golden corn syrup. It's the one that's been in Canada for ages, forever. But this is now Crown. Crown bought Beehive. And so Crown also has a golden corn syrup, but it's interesting that the ingredients are different. And so this one is glucose, water, refiner's syrup, and salt. Whereas the Crown is glucose, water, refiner's molasses, salt, and vanillin. So there's vanilla in this one. Refiner's molasses and refiner's syrup, pretty much kind of the same thing. So this one has a bit of flavoring in it. This one has no flavoring in it. I don't know which is better, whether Caro has vanilla in it. But what I do know is neither of these contain high fructose corn syrup. They are just corn syrup. Oh, and I'm not going to have enough of the Beehive. I'm going to have to use the Crown. So we're going to get a mix of the two. There we go. And so I don't know, is Karo one of the brands that contains high fructose corn syrup? Are you freaked out about high fructose corn syrup? Not all corn syrup contains high fructose. Okay, so now we just need to assemble everything and decide how much of the 5th cup of flour we're going to use. So I'll get myself a little spatula for the corn syrup, and I'm going to put the cream in. Now, I've never seen anyone make these before. It says, add the whipping cream, flour, spice mixture, and the brown syrup. Stir until well mixed. So I'm assuming that it all kind of goes together into the mixing bowl at the same time, and you mix it all together. So I'm going to vary how much of each I put in. I'm going to put in a little bit of each thing and then go back and forth. So a little bit of cream, a little bit of the flour mixture, and then a little bit of the corn syrup. And then just go back and forth. I've got the first 4 cups of flour in here, and I think just based on the texture that I'm seeing and what's written in the recipe, stir until well mixed, roll into walnut-sized balls. This mixture is too sticky. I'm not going to be able to roll it into balls in my hand. So I'm going to add probably another half a cup of sugar. Of flour. Sorry, another half a cup of flour. I think what I'll do is put in about 1/3 of what's in here first and see where that gets me. And then just keep testing the dough to see what it's like. Let's see. No, it still needs a little bit more flour. Okay. Now, I ended up using all 5 cups of flour, and I ended up with a cookie dough that I think is a little too loose and sticky for me to roll around in my hand. And I questioned whether to add maybe a little bit more flour, maybe 6 or 5.5, closer to 6 cups of flour might work. And then I thought, no, you know what, I'm going to go with what's here, and I'll just use a scoop. So this is about a walnut-sized scoop. I'll put them onto a baking tray with some parchment paper. And the eagle-eyed among you will realize that I reuse parchment paper. Depending on what I cooked on them, I might end up reusing parchment paper once or twice. So this is from Twist or No Twist biscuit cutting video that we did on Wednesday. Now, these get baked in a preheated 350-degree oven for, it says, 12 minutes. So I'm going to get these in the oven and get them baked off. There's a lot of dough here. I will probably make up a couple of trays and freeze them and bake them later, because that's something I love to do.
Hey Glenn, what's hot? Hey friends. Cookies.
Pepper nuts.
I mean, I'm not even waiting.
Okay, now,
Oh, I remember that letter.
this was a recipe that I didn't do any research before I started making them. I wanted to walk in and do the recipe based on what was written on this sheet of paper and see what happened. And I did some research while they were baking, and I realized I've made them too big. That I have made them too big, that they are meant to be probably half this size. And there's a big discussion online as to whether they should be crunchy, like nuts, pepper nuts, kind of makes sense, or if they should be like this, which is a much softer cookie. Chef John makes them as a much softer cookie.
There you go.
And his are sort of halfway between the tiny one. I've already had a couple of these. I'm I think it's a great, even though I probably made it wrong and it's not quite right, I really like the flavor.
I do. It's a very, it's just a lovely cookie, right? You know, it goes with a cup of tea.
There's that hint of black pepper in there that I find really, really nice.
Yeah.
3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, we did Tennessee nut crumpets.
Oh yeah.
These remind me of, not in flavor, but in sort of texture and shape of the Tennessee nut crumpets. And when I looked at that recipe and compared the two, I can kind of see maybe where Tennessee nut crumpets came off of a cookie like this.
But then, a savory cookie, right? There's lots of different savory cookies, and we've done quite a few of them. And they're always quite lovely. They're not the same as, a chocolate chip with, peanut butter and caramel dribble and stuff. It is a savory cookie.
Really good.
Yeah.
I like this. Okay, so Katie,
Thank you.
thanks for the recipe. Tell us in the comments how we did. Do they look like your great-grandma's pepper nuts, or were your
Or were they
great-grandma's...
supposed to be small?
Were
Yeah.
they supposed to be smaller? This is not something that's part of my family tradition.
I can see that though, like a pretzel. You just kind of eat them like crunchy little bits.
These are great. Thank you very much. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.